Alright, this was originally titled The Mead of Poetry. I renamed it to eliminate the overuse of "the" in my titles. This is the story of how Odin came to possess the mead of poetry, brewed from the blood of the wisest human that ever lived. I ended up titling it The Mead of Inspiration. At the conclusion of the war between the gods, the Aesir and Vanir gods and goddesses sealed their truce by spitting into a great vat. From their spit, they formed a being whom they named Kvasir. Kvasir was, as a result, the wisest human that ever lived. None were able to present him with a question for which he didn't have a satisfying answer. He became famous and traveled throughout the world, giving counsel. Kvasir was invited to the home of two dwarves, the first of which, his name meant deceiver, and the second meaning screamer. Upon his arrival, the dwarf slew Kvasir and brewed mead with his blood. This mead contained Kvasir's ability to dispense wisdom, and was appropriately named the Stir of Inspiration. Any who drank of it would become a poet or a scholar, it was said. When the gods questioned them about Kvasir's disappearance, Deceiver and Screamer told them that Kvasir had choked on his own wisdom. The two dwarves apparently delighted in murder, however, for soon after this incident, they took the giant called Gilling out to sea and drowned him for sport. After that, the sounds of Gilling's weeping wife irritated them, so they killed her as well, this time by dropping a millstone on her head as she passed under their doorway. Yet this last mischief got the dwarves into trouble when Gilling's son learned of his father's murder. He seized the dwarves, and at low tide, carried them out to a reef that would soon be covered by the waves. The two dwarves then pleaded for their lives, and Suttung only granted their request if they agreed to give him the mead that they had brewed with Kvasir's blood. Suttung later hid the vats of mead in a chamber beneath the mountain, where he appointed his daughter as invitation to battle in order to watch over them. After some time, Odin, the chief of gods, who is restless and unstoppable in his pursuit of wisdom, was displeased with the precious meads being hoarded away beneath a mountain. So he bent his will toward acquiring it for himself, and dispensed the mead only to those he deemed worthy of its power. So the Allfather, who was the master of all earthly wisdom, wanted to control the power of that knowledge. So, disguised as a wandering farmhand, Odin went to the farm of Suttung's brother, Boggi, where he found 9 servants mowing hay. He approached them, took out a whetstone from under his cloak, and offered to sharpen their scythes. They eagerly agreed, and afterwards marveled at how well their scythes cut the hay. They all declared this to be the finest whetstone they had ever seen, and each asked to purchase it. Odin consented to sell it, but he warned them, "You must pay a high price." He then threw the stone into the air, and in their scramble to catch it, the 9 had killed each other with their newly sharpened scythes. Odin then went to Boggi's door and introduced himself as Bolverker, meaning the worker of misfortune. He offered to do the work of 9 servants who had, as he told it, so basely killed each other in a dispute in the fields earlier that day. Then, as a reward, he demanded a sip of Suttung's mead. Boggi responded that he had no control over the mead and that Suttung guarded it jealously, but that if Bolverker could truly perform the work of 9 men, he would help the apparent farmhand to obtain his desire. At the end of that growing season, Odin had fulfilled his promise to the giant, who agreed to accompany him to Suttung in order to inquire about the mead. Suttung, however, angrily refused, The disguised god reminded Boggy of their bargain, convinced the giant to aid him in gaining access to Gulod's dwelling. The two went to a part of the mountain that Boggy knew to be the nearest to the underground chamber. Odin then took an auger from his cloak and handed it to Boggy for him to drill through the rock. The giant did so, and after much work announced that the hole was finished. Odin blew into the hole to verify Boggy's claim, and when the rock dust blew back into his face, he knew that his companion had lied to him. The suspicious god then bade the giant to finish what he had started. After a while, Boggy proclaimed the hole to be complete for a second time. Odin once again blew into the hole, only this time the debris were blown through the hole. Odin finally thanked Boggy for his help, shifted his shape into that of a snake, and crawled into the hole. Boggy stabbed after the snake with that auger, but with luck, Odin made it through just in time. Once inside, he assumed the form of a charming young man and made his way to where Gunnlod guarded the mead. Once inside, he managed to win her favor and secured a promise from her that if he would sleep with her for 3 nights, she would grant him 3 sips of mead. After the 3rd night, Odin went to the mead, which was in 3 vats, and consumed the contents of each vat in a singular draught. Odin then changed his shape yet again, only this time into that of an eagle, and flew off toward Asgard, the god's celestial stronghold, with the great prize in his throat. Soon after, Sutong discovered this trickery, took on the form of another eagle, and flew off in pursuit of Odin. Although, when the gods of Asgard spied their leader approaching with Sutong close behind him, they set out several vessels at the rim of their fortress. Despite valiant efforts, Odin reached the abode of his fellow gods before Sutong could catch him, and the giant then retreated in anguish. As Odin came to the containers, he regurgitated the mead into them, but as he did so, a few drops fell from his beak to Midgard, the world of humankind below. These drops are the source of creative abilities of all bad and mediocre poets and scholars, while the true poets and scholars are those to whom Odin dispenses his mead to personally with care. Thank you so much for watching that, and I hope you enjoyed my version of it. I'll see you next time.